Hi everybody, and welcome to Debbie's Sacred Space and today's Meaningful Musing. Today's Meaningful Musing is something that I probably should have done first, but I've been getting the confidence and courage to speak on camera and slowly introducing entity interference concepts into my other videos. But today I'm going full on into it because I need to, for me. I need to express my truth and how it has impacted my life, and it's not just bullshit or go and heal yourself more and it won't happen. This is the reality of the world we live in. And ironically, what has triggered me to do this today, because I was going to do another video, just another general video like other people do, and I thought, after seeing this video, and it was about a boy who had a near-death experience, and he talked about spiritual warfare, and it was pretty much spot on with everything that I have learned. Not that I don't generally watch those videos, it was only the spiritual warfare part that made me open it, but it's everything that I know and that I have learned from Tracy Gillies here. I've got tabs all in her book. I've put it up several times. I'll put it up again. I was born into entity interference. I had it from in the womb because my mum was married to a narcissist and she was very much controlled herself, as in by him, but also probably by darkness to a degree. So one of the first memories I had was when I had an NLP session, and it just popped in this anger and for a start I didn't know what it was. I knew it was in the womb because I could hear the whooshing of the blood and the heartbeat, and it was just like I was there again. I knew where I was, but I didn't know what the anger was about, and it was such anger. And I came out of it, and the practitioner I had at the time helped me through that, but I was kind of thinking, why would I be angry in the womb? Why would a baby be angry? And now I understand it was because I came here again to help on this planet, knowing what I was up against, and I hadn't quite come into that level of non-consciousness yet. And and it took me a while to figure it out, and really I sort of knew, and then once I met Tracy it kind of clicked in. So other things that have affected my life and my journey, so every time that I went to step up or spoke my truth or went through a phase of growth, and whether that be like as a girl getting my periods, that sort of growth, or something where I was going to become more empowered, I guess you would say, like could have been a moment for an opportunity to become empowered, that's when it would strike. The entities would strike the worst. So I ended up having my appendix out at 12 years old, and I also got asthma at around the same age, ironically, as I got my periods, around that year, that time frame. And then sort of after that, I started to become more of I knew what my dad was doing was wrong, and I was trying to tell people and get help, and everybody had an excuse for what he did, family and everything. They had an excuse for what he did, and the ones that were into the therapy side of things, well, what did he go through? And I talked to my auntie and uncle a lot about it, and even with them, as much as I love them, they would listen, but there was never, I guess, it was their brother. So in that sense, they didn't want to stick their nose in, I guess. And then as the therapy stuff came along, people believe that they know that if you just forgive, everything will be okay. And that's not the case, because if you keep on forgiving a narcissist that you are living with and cannot get away from, especially as an empath, so I was born a very highly sensitive person, and I will read parts of Tracy's book, that these people who are saying you're only an empath because of trauma is not true. You come here as a very highly sensitive soul because where you came from, it's a gift, and it will become a gift here. But what happens with narcissism is it creates you using that gift in the very incorrect way. basically it gets put into um, fixing people and taking on other people's energetic stuff, and always playing that role of making everything okay, and the caregiver, and the emotional stability, being the one who tries to keep the emotions stable, which if you've ever lived with a narcissist, you'll know that's impossible, because it's not about you. So yeah, I went through the childhood trauma, and as I started to grow, things would happen. I was always the kid who, I fainted when I was playing softball, or like nearly fainted. I would pass out if people were telling stories about their wounds or their things like that. In the end, I would sometimes pass out, like when my daughter was in pain in the hospital. Once I passed out, smashed my head on the hospital wall, literally just fell onto a big old stone wall. And when I woke up, I remember hearing my daughter crying because she was 6 and she ended up having food poisoning from a show we'd been to. But we didn't know what was wrong at the time, obviously. And I remember her crying, and I woke up and I thought, whose kid is that? I wish they'd shut them up. And then, because I'd forgotten everything, and then I remembered, oh my God, that's mine. And then it all started to come back. And then I went, oh no. And I put my hand behind my head, and there was just blood everywhere. And then I ended up in emergency. So my husband, because I'd sent him out the room with our youngest one because my daughter was screaming because they were trying to put the thing in her hand. They didn't let the Emla cream work long enough. Then they got a trainee doctor to do it. So she was screaming, and I'd said to my husband, go out. And then next minute, I know, like, I could start to feel it, and I thought, just ask for the chair, but I didn't want to interrupt everything. And then I made it way worse. And obviously in a hospital like that, massive entity interference, massive trauma for my daughter, which of course empaths take it on, gets into where my trauma is, and just being an empath, not wanting to see people go through pain. So I ended up down in emergency, and I remember the doctor was sitting there because I had a neck brace on, and yeah, it got pretty serious, and he was sitting next to me, and I couldn't look at him properly because I had the brace on. And I remember he said to me, you have to be really careful. This is very serious. He's like, you're lucky to be alive, and you're lucky there's no damage, because I'd been and had a scan, and he came back to tell me the results were okay. And he said, yeah, you're going to have to be really careful and send your husband in from now on, because you can't be there. And he said those sort of falls kill people. I've seen it happen. And he goes, so you're just going to have to be really careful from now on. And I'm always a bit of a joker when I'm going through stuff. I don't know why, but because they're all so serious, and I know it was serious, because he had his hand on my hand, and I said to him, I looked over and I said, oh, that's a shame. I said, I was thinking of becoming a nurse. And I couldn't see his face, but it went really quiet. And then I kind of looked over, and he's looking at me, and I said to him, I'm just joking. So this poor doctor was thinking, what the hell? How do I tell her that that's not a career for her? So yeah, I was definitely joking. I would never become a nurse. So anyway, so that was another like traumatic event that I don't even know how I'm still here, and how my brain still actually works at all. Like, I do forget a lot of things, and I think that's hormonal. Plus I've had that was only one bad head injury I had. Another one was when I was playing basketball, and I ran the ball was going down the court, and I ran out flat out to get it. I was quite a good basketball player, not blowing my own horn, but I did, and I loved it. I was a good player, and I loved it. But I ran down, and I went to flick the ball back into the court and got it in, and it came off of one of our girls' legs anyway. But I put my hands out to stop myself on the wire fence, and the wire fence, there was a big railway post holding it up. It was like a country outdoor basketball place, and we had only two courts in the stadium. And as I went, it just pushed the fence back, and the pole got me straight under here. I have a scar there. And yeah, I went down, and of course I've had a lot of trouble with my neck because of these sort of injuries, but I went down badly, and the doctor that we went to see was not impressed that he had to come, because small country town, that he had to come out at that time of night, blah blah blah, to go to the hospital to check me, and I don't think he checked me properly, because I ended up the next day I wouldn't wake up, and my mum come down to get me, and it wasn't unusual that I slept in. Being an empath, I slept a lot because of so much that I would take on from environments and things, but and I couldn't open my eyes properly, and she like couldn't like get me up properly, like awake me properly, and so we went straight up to the hospital. Living on a farm, we had a 20-minute drive, and I couldn't even open my eyes. I had sunglasses on, the light was all too much. So I got sent to Adelaide for brain scans. So this was earlier than the one with my daughter. Obviously, I was only probably like 15, I think, when this happened, 15 or 16. And ironically, that was a time in my life where I had really started to stand up to my dad and not put up with it. My mum and my sister put up with it a lot, and I would always stand up to him and fight back. And of course, entities don't like that. So that was another injury that I had, and the scans ended up being good. They thought I was bleeding on the brain, but it wasn't. It was delayed concussion. And so that was another one. And then there was one with our dog, who now I look back and know it would have been entity interference. The Buddha, the one that died of cancer at 6.5, we used to take him around the block at night time. He used to love it, and we've got our own like 5 acres. And when he'd run down the side fence, he'd wait till we got to the corner, and then we'd say, off you go. And he used to love belting down the side fence, and because he was a staffy, so he had a lot of energy. And anyway, when this night our neighbours were there, right next door, because their shed is right on our fence line, and he just got this thing over him. It was very weird, and he ran back towards us flat out, and I had my hands in my pocket. It was winter, and I was trying to get them out, and I moved one way and moved the other, and each time I moved a different way, he did, and then he knocked my legs out from underneath me because he was just flat out. And then so I landed on my chin, my chest, my face. My hands were tucked into my pocket like that. So I was trying to pull them out. So I had a wrist injury, luckily didn't break anything. My husband picked me up and carried me back home, back to the house, and it had taken the wind out of me. It got my chest. Even my hips were sore, but I've actually written a song about that. It's called Fallen Down, and I can say that's one time I felt the angels there with me, and I've written about that just in the song. This is when I was just really new to writing songs, so it probably would have been about like 2016 or something. But yeah, that was another injury. And so then I'd had carbon monoxide poisoning from a car that leaked carbon monoxide due to a leaking exhaust manifold gasket. We found out eventually, and me and my youngest daughter got quite sick from that. What else? There's been a lot. Then, things that other people probably don't go through, and people who, like our neighbour, can be in his shed with a truck running, with the doors shut, and survive. Me, I'd be gone. I couldn't. I'd be so, that would affect my health so much. As an empath, I'm like a canary in the coal mine. I feel things, I smell things, I know things, and I'm very, very sensitive to things. And always, that's been my whole life. That's not something that just my dad created because, of my, it's just a gift that I have. I am sensitive to more than just emotional energies and things. It is, it's smells and things like that. So that was another time that I got quite sick, and I ended up getting chronic fatigue from that. And then, I'm just trying to think of other times in my life where, obviously the big one is when I started to stand up to my dad a lot. I had a whole year of, my auntie died in the year before I'd finished year 12. So 1994, Christmas time, she'd passed away just before Christmas. And then my mum had another brain tumour operation. Then she had radiation therapy. So she was away for a bit. So it was me and my dad home by ourselves because my sister had moved out by this stage. And then in the February, my sister ended up passing away from cardiomyopathy, which is a whole nother story, because there's a cardiomyopathy that is caused by stress and trauma. And they said it was viral, but I don't think they really even knew, because they were just changing their mind all the time, because it was first of all her thyroid, and then it was this, and then it was that. And then they came up with viral cardiomyopathy, but her heart definitely had issues, and then her liver ended up having issues, and then she passed away. And so that was when I had become quite empowered towards my dad. And it was like when I was going to leave home because I got accepted into uni. Anyway, so all of these times in my life, and they're just some of the major ones that I can think of right now, but they all coincided with times where I was stepping up into another part of my life, or becoming stronger within myself, becoming more sovereign. And so the death of my sister put me back a long way, because I was only 17 and I didn't know. I think I was just naive and thought that happens to other people, not me. And I didn't know then about entities at all. My dad was an atheist. My mum was originally a Catholic, brought up Catholic, and who didn't practice anything because she didn't like it. After being sent to a boarding school at 5 years old and been made to confess her sins at 5 years old, she didn't like the religion at all. So basically, I had no background, no help, no guidance, no nothing, and I didn't realise that was entities. The whole lot of it, all of those things, was entity involvement. As I found out from Tracy, it wasn't just bad luck. It was entity involvement, and it was because I have come here with a gift, and I've come here to help humanity. And one of the gifts is, believe it or not, training with Tracy and being able to remove entities. And I can do that quite easily because I transmute darkness through my solar plexus. It's a gift that I have, and I've had for a long time. And I learned how to use it so I would stop fainting and passing out all the time. So I've been a sensitive one from the very, very start, and it's by design. So there's just a few stories of how I got to where I am now. And then it got more and more severe as we got but it was with animals. And I talked about it in other videos where animals would just die one after the other. We had 15 animals in 18 months, and it continued. So I think it ended up being about 24 months. There was something like 16 animals died, or 17, or something like that. I mean, you know, it was just horrible when you're an animal empath and you're an animal healer and you can't help any of them, which was by design. And then Charlie with his seizures, Ollie with his IBD that would be like blood. I will be doing songs about them, so that can be told then. But it just did not stop. So I had already, from a lifetime of having a narcissistic father, they don't go away. I had in 2018 cut my parents out, and that was when it got really bad. That was when the entity interference got really bad, because it was like they had a job to do. They were meant to take you down. Because my dad, after my sister died, almost doubled down. So like normal people, if somebody passed away, if they had a child pass away, they would generally want to do whatever they could and be kind to their other child. Well, my dad didn't. He took it upon himself to become even more of an arsehole to me, to yell at me every time I went home. And because of guilt from a whole community, your parents are all you've got left. You are all your parents have left. Your parents really need you. You don't know what they've gone through. You don't know what it's like to lose a daughter. You're all they've got. Constant guilt from a whole community. Never did they ask how I was. Only a couple of people cared about me. That's hard to take as a 17-year-old, and who has no foundation, no help, no connection to anybody who could have helped. And my husband was the only one, my now husband, who was any sort of guidance back then, and he could actually see and feel spirits, so like passed over people. And so we formed a very big connection, and if it hadn't have been for him, I honestly don't know where I'd be now. So I did get sent. I always said that when Michelle died, she sent him because she knew I wouldn't be able to do it alone. And yeah, as much as it hasn't been an easy ride for us, in many ways, I don't know what I would have done without him, because I literally would have had nobody. So I look at all those times where I stood up and where I started to get stronger, and the entity interference got worse and worse, and I didn't connect that at the time to entity interference, even when in 2012 I went to Uluru and did a 10-day inner child healing course with Lorraine Webb, who sadly has passed away, I found out. And that course also had entity involvement and other things in it, but now I've learned what they were doing wouldn't have been a safe way to remove them. Even though I saw them being removed, they probably went somewhere else, into somebody else, because that's what they do. So yeah, I've had to learn that the hard way. When I got home from there, I had to deal with it with my own daughter. I'll tell you how else you can see entity interference: through a child that has worms all the time, and no matter what you do, you can't get rid of them, natural or chemical, who has nits all the time, despite how clean you are, despite how much tea tree oil and eucalyptus you put in the hairspray and conditioner that you use, because I was very natural, constant, and it was Earthbound Souls. And I actually took her to a practitioner here because I was like, I just knew what. One day she put her hand in the toilet when I walked in, and I was just like, what are you doing? Like, she was only 4, and I was like, what are you doing? And she's just like, he told me to. And I said, who told you to? Because I was a bit angry. I was like, who told you to? And she's just like, the boy. And I'm like, what boy? And she's like, the boy just there. And then it clicked. Luckily, I'm the parent who was open to that, and because otherwise I would have been like, don't be so silly, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay. So I said, you don't listen to him. Putting your hands in the toilet is dirty. And like, she wasn't even old enough. Like, if she'd have seen Drop Dead Fred or something, I would have been like, oh my god. But she wasn't even old enough to watch that, or even well, she didn't watch it, and they wouldn't have understood it then anyway. So she had a very big connection with death. So when my grandma died, who she was close to, my grandma, she at the funeral put her hand under the cloth and walked around the coffin, and was quite concerned whether grandma had eaten the crown mince yet or not that we'd put in the coffin. But just very, very not scared of it at all. Even when my grandma was, the last time we visited her, she used to get her skin and talk to her and roll her skin, because old people have very loose skin, and she used to roll it between her fingers on her hand, on her arm, when she'd talk to her. So she just wasn't scared of it, whereas my oldest daughter was a bit stand backish. My youngest daughter wasn't scared of it at all. And I wanted to keep that going for her, but it didn't. But anyway, it is what it is. If she's meant to be that person, then it will come back. But so all of those things I ended up learning when I took her to this practitioner. She's like, Deb, she hasn't just got 1 or 2. She's got I think she said there's 20 or 30 earthbound souls hanging around her. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So she did these clearings on her, and then the nits went away, the pinworms went away, never had any trouble with them again. Just like that. And I had done everything for months to try to solve the problem, and no, nothing. I'd even done enemas on the kid, the poor thing, to help, natural enemas to try to help with the worms. No. And it just goes to show what symptoms come out in the physical realm because of entity interference and what they can do. I mean, Tracy has been working with it for a long time, so she has more stories than me of helping people and how serious it can get, and how much it can impact the physical world, the 3D realm, massively. I mean, you only have to look. Who do you think the governments are controlled by? Who do you think the Rockefellers and all that, or even are, but who they're controlled by, if they are actual people? We just have to start being smart about how we think about this world, and not just believing in all the woo-woo spiritual stuff, because at the end of the day, it is spiritual warfare. That's what this video is about, spiritual warfare. And it doesn't just belong here on earth. I really am trying through these videos to get people to understand that multidimensional beings are dark and light. However that happened from the fallen angels, or whenever that happened, they chose through free will to become dark. And you know what? This isn't even just Tracy's teaching. Yes, she talks about it. I'll read a section in her book. But it's just a knowing. Like once you get taught the entity stuff and you start to put things together, like all the darkness, like I said, I was into Epstein Island in like 2012, 2013, 2014, 2012 probably even. I was looking at all those things, and Hollywood and music industry and the darkness in all of it, and the control in all of it, like the frequency of music even. And it doesn't, like, I guess consciousness is consciousness, and you can only know once you know. I guess I already knew, but I didn't completely have a knowing, as in, like, there's always a mind thing, but then when it sits down as a knowing, I think people who know will know what I mean. You can know something up here, but once it sits in you with it as a knowing. And I think that's what Tracy helped me to actually, everything that I was thinking just hit right on, most of it. Like there was a few things that I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, but not judging her or a journey, but just I don't just put people on pedestals. Like if it doesn't fit with me, it doesn't fit. But just most of her stuff just did. When I read the truth about Epstein-Barr virus, and that's why I worked with Tracy, because I had thyroid problems. I mean, I do have a bit of a thyroid problem now, which I think is a backlash from years of trauma, and I've only just had all the entity interference cleared, so my body now has to realign again. In the physical realm, it takes longer. So, and that's part of this too. Speaking up is a massive part of it. But when I read that, I was just like, oh my God, I know this is true. I know this is true. I know this is true. Like so much of it was just almost not even, it was like reading my own book almost, even though it wasn't my stuff. Like she's the one who went through it all and worked out the ways to deal with entity interference by actually meeting them face to face, literally in spirit, face to face as such, but in spirit. And I'm so grateful, because her techniques are the only thing that's helped me. I've done years of work on myself, years. I've done all of it. You watch my other videos, from law of attraction to manifestation to healing, healing your mental trauma, healing your emotional trauma, like years of it. And I did it to the book, and I did it a lot. I didn't just do it and then give up. I've been doing EFT tapping now for years, and cogno movement I've been doing now for probably 3 years, I think. I'd say probably 3 years. And I have these tools that I use for a long time. I was doing the one with the magnet, the heart release one was emotional freedom technique, I believe it's called. I've qualified in obviously Reiki, but first level pranic healing, forensic healing. Well, I didn't actually get my qualification. I went and did the whole course and then did my practices and then never sent them off, and that's a whole nother story as to why I didn't do that. I'm just saying, not all practitioners know that they're also under attack. What else? Oh, there's heaps of them. I've got them. I did access bars, which I wish I hadn't have. I did a 3-day hypnosis course, NLP, short NLP courses. I was just looking for help. I was looking to free myself from the shit. And then, of course, what I did with other people, from kinesiology to NLP, learning how to meditate, timeline therapy, all sorts of stuff. And I've learnt a lot about who's legit and who's not, what's legit and what's not. And so much of it is also influenced by entities. they've got a strong hold. If there's ego in any of that, they're in. So, and it's a way that, and unfortunately, people that are innocent who just want help can be manipulated, some of these therapies. So that's another word of caution, is like, be careful of that. I'm looking a bit feral today. But yeah, I just want to say there are so many things that, like in this book of Tracy's here that I held up before, I'm going to put it up on the screen because there's a bit of glare when I put it up like this. But I'll read a few things out of it today. And obviously this is not plagiarism. This is stuff that really resonates with me. And I'm reading it straight from her book. I'm recommending you to go and read her whole book, because there's nothing that I've ever read on entity interference that even is close to it. And I've lived it, and I've worked with Tracy, and I have trained with Tracy to do entity removal. I've done many healings on myself, because even after working with her, I knew that I had to, that's what I said to her, I knew I had to train in this, because it wasn't enough. Like, they will not stop. I have to have the sovereignty myself. I have to have the skills myself. I have to have the power myself. I have to take that back. It's part of why I'm here, and I knew it. So I trained with her, and now I can remove entities myself. I'm the timing of meeting her when things were going so bad in my life, that when I met her, I've said in another video, I was just crying, and I said to her, I just don't want to be here anymore, because I'd had enough. I was fighting a war that I'd forgotten about as a being here. I didn't know why everything was going so shit in my life, and here I am being a decent person, manifesting, doing all of the right things, doing the law of attraction, doing your affirmations, like, healing. I was healing. I see the people who, and then I was being called, like, not being called directly, but people on videos would say, you've got a victim mentality if you think that you're hard done by, or you think that things aren't working for you. And it's like, no, you just got to be fucking real. If something's not working, it's not working, and you've got to look at why it's not working. And when you don't know this stuff, which is why I so want to get this out here, a lot of the time it's not working because of entity interference. And it's very real. I don't know why people believe that it's only in this 3D realm and then it just doesn't go anywhere else. Why do we believe that angels and other light beings can be multidimensional, but then those ones aren't? And all of a sudden, if we do believe that, yeah, but they don't do anything once we die. Once we die in this body, and go, yeah, of course they do. But we know when we leave, the ones of us who've come here to help, we know we're sovereign. We knew we'd come down here and it was going to be fucking hard. I've written a song about it. It was going to be hard. We knew what our job was. We still have to go through the rules of this universe, which is go through the veil of amnesia. We have to forget who we are and then remember again. What a fun game that is. But yeah, I like Tracy a lot because of her grounded spiritual truths and the way that she's helped me. Like, nobody else, not one person on my journey could help me. In fact, some things where I thought I was getting help, I was going backwards, and I was actually letting more interference in. That's why I don't practice Reiki anymore. And people will be so offended by that, Reiki practitioners. But I was one. I'm not doing it to be different or to be a hero. I'm doing it because I now have better ways. I have frequencies that I now call in that aren't corrupted by different teachers, I mean, I know somebody who said that their teacher was like basically like sending dark energies, dark magic their way. It's called something, when somebody's trying to corrupt you and that. And so then you think Reiki's good if you've got a teacher doing that. Some teachers are good, but it has been very corrupted along the way, because everybody who awakens, what do they first go to normally? Reiki. I've got people that I know, not very well, but I know of them, and I know their kind of reputation, the kind of people they are, who just want to be seen and everybody love them and be the hero. And they awaken and they do Reiki, and then they're telling everybody that they pretty much know everything. So that's egos for you. And then there was people like me who I had to keep stepping back, and just doing it for myself and my family and a few friends every now and then. I couldn't start a business. I was never allowed to, literally. Like every time I tried, it just got decimated. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of grateful. This is another thing where the darkness kind of almost works in your favor. I know that sounds really weird, but if you understand it, sometimes it blocks you from things that if I had have tried to do a business with my energy filled like it was, I would have been drowned, absolutely drowned in other people's stuff, which would have caused me way more interference. So maybe that was the light and not the darkness. Tricky thing is, I've written a song about this. God is everywhere, including the darkness. It gets tricky. Because at the end of the day, we all come from the same source. So, but that doesn't mean that we all should be one, and we all should just, because for an empath, being one is toxic. Opening your energy field up like that is toxic. That's one thing that really I had started to learn, and then Tracy really taught that one. Just like forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't always the best thing that you can do. If you've got a narcissist in your life and you keep on forgiving him in the way that you do, because you have a loving heart in that, then you'll just drown in it. Forgiveness is necessary for sure, but while you're still in something, sometimes forgiving over and over, and I know that because I did. And people say, oh, did you forgive properly? And it's like, yeah, like I did a lot of healing, and I've done a lot of healing, and now I have completely forgiven my dad, and I don't even feel the same about him anymore, because I know what he's controlled by now. But yeah, I don't hold that same thing, because now I've set so many boundaries, and I'm looking after myself, and I don't have that same, I guess you could say, hatred, and people wouldn't like that, but when somebody's done that to you for your life, and don't say it's a victim mentality when you think somebody's done something to you, because let's get real, if something has happened to you from a child and you've been abused, you are a fucking victim. It's not a victim mentality, it is being a victim. And when that goes on for 40 odd years, or 40 something years, you should stand up for yourself. You should know, yeah, well, you're trained not to. And when you had a sister die and you feel guilty as shit, these rules that everybody puts on spirituality are really starting to fuck me off, to be honest with you, because they're not even true when it comes to entity interference. They don't even stand up until all of that is removed. Like where I am in my life now I can actually start to manifest and build on what I want. And I'm learning now that whole process that I thought I had before, I'm actually having to now. The thing is, I've got the tools, and I know what to do, and really it's just being me that I can manifest what I'm meant to, what my soul came here to manifest, what I can, the abundance and everything. But the main thing is remembering, like, we are here to, especially light workers, empaths, and that they've got a soul mission that is probably different from a lot of people, and I see it every day. I see the people that don't wake up. I see the people that do know all this stuff but still don't really do anything about it. And I'm saying not just the entity stuff, but the healing stuff in general. They don't do it, and they know a lot of stuff, and they still don't really use it on themselves. They want to go out and help fix everybody else. It's typical of just humanity, because it's a very ego-driven thing to, as much as it comes across as love, but I'm talking about there's a lot of people on the narcissistic scale, at least the emotionally immature scale here on Earth at the moment, and it doesn't come from the place that empaths come from, of wanting to help and heal people. It comes from a place of wanting to actually be in control, and quite often they can be nasty with it, or they just want to tell you what to do all the time, or it's coming from a very different place. So I just want to read a few things out of Tracy's book, so that it's not just me going on about this. So I want to talk about mistaken identity just quickly, read this part out of Tracy's book. So this is straight out of her book. So just so you know, I'm not, there, mistaken identity, is that page? There. I'm reading it from her book, and it's her information. So mistaken identity, the most dangerous mechanism. Perhaps the most dangerous form of attachment arises not through direct attack, but through mistaken identity, spiritual fraud at the highest level. It occurs when individuals believe they are engaging with benevolent energies, only to discover, often too late, that what they have welcomed is interference in disguise. False light, deceptive guidance, and so-called master beings all fall into this category. Now that's probably going to annoy some people. And I had already stopped calling in many of the beings that I was calling in previously before I met Tracy. I guess you could call it a knowing, but I just knew that I'm like, if I'm calling in them and things aren't going well, are they really like, even when we call certain beings gods, like there's only one divine creator God. I do not believe in the word gods because there's one creator God, and that's it. And the rest of them may be real, may not. I don't even know if I trust history, because they've told a whole heap of lies through religion, through everything, through all sorts of history. So I sort of reserve that. But what I want to talk about is the fact that these beings can come as whoever they want to put you on the wrong path, even though it feels right. And I actually have seen a few people talking about this online on YouTube, about how sometimes they can feel like they're actually helping you, and and it's wonderful, and but I keep on questioning why people keep going to all these Joe Dispenza things and all these different, because there's stuff about him that I've read and heard, and he's not the only one. Like, it's not just an attack on him, because he's probably got interference as well. But I'm just saying that, like, we have to be so discerning on what we do. Like, if you're going to these workshops or whatever they're called that you go to, I haven't been to any, so I don't know. But and you have to go over and over again. Why would you? Like, when is the breakthrough going to happen that you can live your life from that level and not fake it either? Not fake it, because I see a lot of people doing that, being spiritually fake, and they've even convinced themselves sometimes, and the fake it till you make it thing, which you can do that if you like, but I think you got to be careful with how you're doing it. And like I always say, you can't fool the divine creator. You can fool yourself, you can fool a lot of people, but you can't fool the divine creator. As an empath, I can't. It's not in me. I'm not here to be deceitful. It is what it is, which is why I'm doing this right now. It is what it is. So another part of Tracy's book that I wanted to talk about, which is really important for me, and I just said it before, because it's something that people just don't get the most when they talk about, like, the spiritual warfare, and it's entities across dimensional levels. So this is purely Tracy's work, because I wouldn't have a clue, as in I haven't been there and seen these levels. I am not at that place myself. I'm very much staying grounded right now, by choice, and there probably is a bit of, like, maybe fear, maybe just I need to just get myself grounded here properly before I go trying to connect with other multidimensional beings that are good. I have lost a lot of trust because of what I've been through, in calling in ones that I thought were, like that mistaken identity thing I just talked about. But anyway, I'll read this. Many people mistakenly believe that negative entities or dark beings of interference exist only in the lower realms. This is far from the truth. Demonic presence can affect multiple dimensional layers of a person's being across the mind, body and soul, reaching as far up as the ninth dimensional aspect. Multidimensional beings, however, operate at far higher levels, sometimes extending into the hundreds of dimensional layers. These entities are not confined to the underworld as many people assume, which is what they do assume. Multidimensional interference intercepts a person's 10th dimensional aspect, which is the point of influence over consciousness, perception, and energetic sovereignty. And although every human carries higher dimensional aspects within them, this does not make them immune to interference. Because we come here and we forget. We forget. We forget who we are, and we forget, why we've come most of the time, and that gets influenced from the start if you're someone like me. And all of a sudden, you're just living a life and you know that you're kind of different, and you just kind of go along and you think that you're doing the right thing, and then when you learn that you can do healing, then you're like, oh, I must have to fix everybody. A, because of your childhood of having to fix everybody, but B, because it's an innate thing within you, is to help people heal. The truth is, and what I've learned, is you can only help people who want to be helped, and not people who don't want to do some work themselves. You're not here to fix people. If you're a light worker, empath, healer, you are here to help guide people and then help them, like Tracy did with me, remove the interference, remove the things that I couldn't see, help them grow into their sovereignty and into their power. I see too many people who want to just fix people, and unfortunately, it was within me too. So I'm not criticizing people, because I was the same. Thinking that that's what I had to do. I've got this gift, so this must be what I have to do, and it carried on to animals. Must have to fix them too. And let's not talk about animals as far as all entity interference, but also the fact that animals can, take on people's stuff, and, they can come here for all sorts of reasons. Our animals came to protect my family from massive entity interference. So it had a different kind of stress related to it. Very different, because we are animal people. We were. It's become very wearing, and but anyway, we have a few left, but that's a whole nother story. And then here, I just want to, I just got to sort of read where. So this is talking about PTSD. I won't read heaps of it, because it's Tracy's book, and I think you should go and purchase it and yourself, even if you just get the ebook one, because it's really worth it. It's really worth to open your mind up and think of things differently, especially if you're a healer or you've had things go on in your life that you're just like, why do I seem so unlucky, and I've tried all this healing and I've done all this manifestation and that nothing's worked. Read this and then you'll figure out why. So not every case of PTSD, schizophrenia or emotional instability is energetic, and not everyone is purely biological. Many are hybrid expressions where trauma, energetic interference and neurology imbalances coexist and reinforce one another. This is especially true with PTSD. The shock and fragments caused by trauma don't just imprint in the brain, they ripple through the subtle energetic and multidimensional layers of the body, fracturing coherence across mind, body and soul. When this coherence is lost, openings can form in the energetic field, allowing external energies or entities to attach and influence consciousness. In some situations, entity interference is the root cause of trauma, an energetic invasion or manipulation that shocks the system and fractures the individual's sense of safety and self. In other cases, entities attach after trauma, feeding on the energetic instability left behind and using it as an access point to remain within the field. So for me, being born into the family I was, and my dad, as Tracy told me in one of my healings, was directly taken over by an entity who was sent from the devil himself, whatever. And I think I had that trauma. If I was in the world of, psychology, and that, it would be that I would have been diagnosed with chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. my nervous system has been fried from the journey that I've gone on, had to go on, and had to face, and had to remember, and had to I say remember because like I said, I do, like, we learn things along the way, don't get me wrong, but for me it's a massive remembering of what I'm here for. And yeah, I've it's been very tough, and I would have been diagnosed with that, and really it was severe entity interference from the start, like I say, even in the womb. Like, I'm not somebody who did things to create that in my life. And people might say, what about past lives, blah blah blah, the whole karma thing. I've done a video on that. Well, entity interference surpasses all of that, because you don't come here, and entities don't just come in to repay your, you know what I mean, as a karmic debt. The bottom line is that there's a lot of light workers in that who have come lifetime after lifetime to help, and that's why they're a target. That is purely why they're a target. Like, it's simple, that's not Tracy's words, that there is mine, but that's how I see it. And I just want to read this little bit on empaths, because I am one. Empathic sensitivity and etheric vulnerability. Many empaths struggle with this etheric layer. Designed to feel deeply, not because of trauma, designed. I hope you get that, because there's two men who are saying on YouTube that I've watched that it is because of trauma only, and a lot of people are spreading that BS at the moment. Designed to feel deeply, and often learn early in life to absorb others' emotions, pain and stress in an attempt to stabilize their environment, especially around their caregivers, which was me. This creates porous energetic boundaries that remain open and receptive in adulthood. Empaths commonly carry unconscious beliefs like, I must help others heal, I am responsible for other people's emotions. These programs create openings for energetic transference and interference. I'm not going to read any more than that for that one, because, like I say, this book is for you to read. And like I say, it's very worth getting, because there's so many truths in it. And if somebody has really been through the journey of entity interference, it will not take much for you to go, oh yeah, I get that. Because that's what happened with me. Like, that's why there's so many tabs on this book other than the ones I've put on today. And that's why there's so much highlighting in this book. I had already done Tracy's. I'd done my 6 months with Tracy on her Epstein-Barr virus program. But then I'd also done I was in her first entity practitioner program. And, and I bought this book near the end of that, and I still read it all and still highlighted. So after everything I'd learned, I still was taking stuff in and just more and more, like, knowing of, like, yeah, this is it. And I went through a stage of, like, can I even trust Tracy? Because I was that I had been that influenced, and I lost trust in everything in this world, really. And I kind of thought to myself, and I said to my husband, I don't have a choice. People would say, you've always got a choice. It's like, well, I don't, because I don't know what the hell is going on in my life and why things just aren't working for me that seem to work for other people. The few people that do put it out there, that, I'd seem to be doing well in their life, and maybe they have a different path. I'm not even going to say any more than that. Maybe they just have a different path, and that's it. But yeah, entity interference has been huge, and I know where it's come from, and I know it's been following me for lifetimes. Every time I come down here, it will attach again because of trauma from other lifetimes. But I believe I go back up to where I came from, and not stuck on any loop here on earth or anything like that. I know that I'm an older soul, that I've been here and done this a lot, and I've come here to help. I know that now. I know that's why Lemuria also is, like, seems like the place before, Atlantis took over and then became the place that fell from being a place of healing to a place of destruction. And I believe that's sort of similar to what we're going through now on Earth with AI and transhumanism. they're kind of bringing things in that stuffing around with the natural way of things and doing it to control. And I believe that's sort of where it started, is that, and it probably coincided with the fallen angels and was the flood of the Bible. I don't really know. The flood of Atlantis. Don't know. But anyway, some things to think about. I just wanted to read just a couple of last bits in near the end of her book. And because I resonate with them a lot as well. So she says here, the world needs more awakened souls. Humanity's evolution depends on it. The spiritual realms are vast, yes, and the interference is real, but so are the opportunities for profound up-leveling. With the right tools, the right support, and the right governance, light spreads. Because it's never just about one person's healing, it's about a ripple. Each soul reclaims itself, each soul that reclaims itself, which is that what I've done, like reclaiming myself from that severe entity interference with Tracy's help. That's why I'm promoting her stuff, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. It just wasn't going to stop. It was getting worse and worse, and the stuff that was found on my property and me and the battlefield that I was in, because of, like she said, Tracy said, your block has come up as a battlefield, your property, and she said normally that's because there's been a battle there in the past, in history. And she said, but it's over you. They want you. They don't want you here. They're trying to destroy me, basically, is what she was saying in a nutshell. I can't remember exactly how she said it, but, and yeah, that hits hard when you're like thinking that you're not special at all, and then you have to turn it around. You know, you're useless, you're worthless, you're not enough, and then you have to turn that around to realize that, whoa. I remember I said to Tracy one day, if entities were like followers on social media or YouTube, like I'd be so famous right now because I've got that many entities following me. And like she had a bit of a laugh, like it was an email, but yeah, she's funny. She said that's funny because that's how it was. It was like, dude, you think I'm special and I can't even see it myself, but that's what they want. They want you to not see it in yourself. They want you to think that you're useless and worthless, and they pray, they get into those traumas and they create more of that. And then you get the false guidance, and then you think, oh, I'm calling in these beings that are helping me and things are still getting worse, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Yeah, it's pretty like weird when you think about it. I was going to say scary, but it's not even, it is scary because you can die from entity interference if it gets that bad. But it's also very empowering once you know, because now you know what, like, you can learn manifestation, you can learn law of attraction, you can learn to heal your thoughts and beliefs, and that you can learn all of that. If you've got entity interference, it doesn't matter. That's what I've been trying to say about karma and all of it. It doesn't really matter if you've got entity interference. You're not gonna, and also, where was my good karma if there was good and bad? Didn't get any of that. And I look back through my life and I really didn't get any of that. Even the birth of my eldest daughter, they tried to take her life. That was, now I understand how severe that was and why it happened. And she has been, unfortunately, very easily impacted by entity interference. And that's what I say when I came back from Uluru, when I'd done that course. She was the one I had to practice on. I told you about my daughter with knits and that, but I didn't say about her. She wasn't affected in that same way. She was affected by darker things, not just earthbound souls. And so I had to try to practice it then, not really having the best tools to do it with, and now I do. And I'm so grateful for that. So each soul that reclaims itself restores a piece of humanity's wholeness. Your greatest gift to the world is your journey, which is why I'm sharing it with you. I'm sharing it with you because this is my greatest gift to the world. If I can wake people up to what is really going on, not just this like, call in your own light or be in your own light and expand it out and da-da-da-da-da, and that'll get rid of everything. It's like if you've had trauma and you've got entity interference and you're cut off like I was from any other divine light, and all you have is that spark, it's not going to change anything. I don't even know what power you would need to be able to, I guess fight that or whatever. Um, yeah, it's not going to help until you remove them. That the way that they implant and the way that they from implants and all these devices that they use, like there's things that they put in that when you start to evolve, they'll basically stop you. Like there's those sort of implants. There's all sorts of stuff. It's raining, so I'm going to have to go soon because the dogs are out in the backyard, my daughter's dogs, and they need to come in because they can't be out in the rain. So this is telling me to finish it off. Your very challenges that once broke you, your very challenges that once broke you open are the gateway through which your mastery is born, which is where it's happening to me. I'm not on the other side of it yet because I still have my body that I'm dealing with, but I know that the interference isn't the same, and I'm gradually just waking up to when it is happening and when it isn't, and removing things. And plus I have a necklace that's coded from Tracy that they can't interfere anymore, only the ones that have already that are already sort of made the impact on me from years of trauma and abuse and stuff. That's where they can come in through when I was knocked out in hospital, through that trauma and abuse, and just being out to it, even just going in for an operation when you're not in your consciousness. And in hospitals is a great way to get entities. There's a lot of them there. So it's very, like I say, it's not a fear thing. Once you stand in your power, like Tracy says in his book, they can't, but you have to remove them first. You have to remove all the loopholes, all the inception points. And for somebody who's been through trauma for years and years, there's many of them. We are their source, their food source. Our trauma, and that is their food source. So as soon as we can heal ourselves and heal that trauma, heal those emotional, connections to things, and heal our nervous system, it will change everything. And that's what I was trying to do, but I didn't have the right entity removal tools until I met Tracy. So and then she says here, perhaps the greatest lesson of all, that even as we ascend, we must still live fully here, grounded, present, human, to bring heaven to earth. And that's what also I was saying before, actually, about being here. I don't need to go and have an out-of-body experience. I don't need to go astral traveling. All the things that I wanted to do so badly, I now know would have killed me. Me personally, it would have killed me, because that would have been their chance to infiltrate. I mean, I used to wake up at night. It happened a few times, and I remember one night it was just this dark. It came into my energy field and I could just feel it, and it went right down to my toes, and I was just like almost like sort of frozen there. And then I was doing Tracy's work, so I called in certain frequencies, and I did the healing as best I could, because I couldn't remember exactly what the words were, but and yeah, it just went. And I just think now, all the times that, and I watch where they get in, I watch how they affect people to try to affect me. It doesn't work anymore, because now I know the game. See, that's the thing. When I used to take that personally and be like, why are they attacking me? It must be something I've got to heal, because that's what we're taught. They're mirroring you. You've got to heal something. They're showing you a part of yourself that you haven't healed yet. And so I'd always be healing. I'd be healing like the way that I'm responding to them, or the way that I feel because of what happened, and I'd be healing all this stuff. But like now I see it. I can see, since I've done the attunement, I can see. I mean, I could see it a bit beforehand. Now I can really see it. The entity interference. So I just want to quickly read out, for the people that didn't watch any of my other videos, why I found Tracy in the first place. So I was going through all sorts of stuff with Charlie and that, and just a long journey. I'd had enough. Like a dog that has seizures, if you are if they live inside and you are an empath, an animal empath, and your nervous system is fried, creates massive trauma. And this dog could flip for like 6 or 7 meters. Flip. I don't know how he never broke anything. But he would wee and poo and have these seizures, and it was just traumatic. And then he would pace around our 5 acre block, and you'd have to chase him. And this is all times of the night, morning, day, and the power would go off sometimes because it was that much entity interference. It was horrid. And so I had written this. I think I did it. I don't know if I put the date on there. I don't think that was the one. No, this was the one that I wrote. Wrong note. Put another one. Oh my god. So it was on the 21st of the 1st of 25. So at this stage, Charlie had died, and that's when I got my asthma back, and it was their last attack on me. And honestly, if I didn't know how to do energy healing and transmute things, because I was outside burping, my youngest daughter and my husband were out there with me because everybody was not knowing why I couldn't breathe, and I was just burping and burping and burping, and I did that 3 times, but I ended up going back to the hospital again because I couldn't breathe, and they told me it was anxiety, and they told me that again when I went this time when I got my thyroid problem. They said the same thing, that I needed a... Sorry, I just accidentally stopped that. I pressed the mouse pad and I didn't mean to. Yeah, be careful, because darkness gets into people, doctors, all sorts. You got to be careful what you're told and why you're told it, because I was starting to think, well, I need a mental health plan. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm having an anxiety attack. I feel like my heart is racing out of my chest and everything, and it ended up being that I had hyperthyroidism, and I was being told that I had a mental health problem. To be very careful. There's a word of warning. But the asthma one was a bit different, because I was like, I had anxiety because of Charlie passing away and everything I've been through. Literally, Charlie was just the end of a lot of stuff, but also it ended up being asthma. I went and had lung tests and stuff like that, and it ended up being my asthma that I'd gotten rid of for years that had come back again because of the trauma and the grief. It sits in the lungs. And so that's another thing that I have to work on again. I went on the medication and I've been good since, but I'm doing my best again to come off of it, because I had been off of it for many years. And I've been doing the potato breathing method as well. So there's another one that you might want to look up. So you think, why wouldn't that work? Yeah. So my body has had a lot of trauma, and now it's time to try to let it know that it's safe. That's what I'm working on right now. So this was the note that I put up. And it says, God, how can I get my energy and vitality back? Thank you for guiding me. So I was on the 21st of January, 21st of January, 21st of the 1st of 2025. And it wasn't that long after that, I found Tracy's book about the Epstein-Barr virus. And at that stage, she hadn't written her second one. And I'd actually had it in my wish list for like a little while, and I just hadn't done anything with it. And then, it was that guidance that all of a sudden that day it was like, it was almost like you need to get that. And I got it, and when I read it in like a day, like I started, bits and pieces, but I started reading it, I think that night. And then the next day I finished reading it in the morning. I was just, yep, this is it. This is the truth. This is the truth. And, that's my story about my journey and some of Tracy's stuff that resonated with me. All of it, most of it did. I've got to say that most of her teachings resonated with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sharing them with you, because trust me, I've been to many healers and done many things, and there's lots of stuff I wouldn't share. So I'm not doing it to promote her in any way, as in like she doesn't even know I'm doing this. So it's because I've just made a mess putting that back up there. It's because I'm choosing to show you what helped me. which is what I will always do. I wouldn't promote it if it didn't help me. That's why all the rest of the stuff I'm leaving behind. So anyway, thank you for being here for this one. And I don't know how long it was because I stopped that, but it's probably going to be a longer one again, but an important one for you to understand how it plays out in your life, and how spiritual warfare is not just a 3D earth thing, is everywhere and many dimensions. And it doesn't mean that when we leave here we're going to be attacked, because we have our sovereignty in those other places. That's why some of us choose to come down here to help, because we know once we leave here we have our sovereignty, and we have to learn or remember, I guess, how to regain it here and then help. So that's the next part of my journey, because I was trying to go ahead with the helping without helping myself and without knowing the real cause behind what I was going through. So I think that's it for now. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. I do nearly with every video, but I think you get enough. And as the journey goes on, anything that I haven't remembered in certain videos, I'm sure will come up if it's meant to. Okay, so thanks for being here, and have a wonderful day. Okay, bye guys. Okay, sorry guys, that was a long video. But if you're still here, thank you. And I didn't show you my shirt, so I'm quickly going to do that. So Hello Darkness, my old friend, obviously that's a song, and that song meant nothing to do with the kind of darkness I'm talking about, the meaning of that song. But the reason that I've bought that shirt is because darkness is never going to be a friend as such. But that's what it felt like. It's almost like the darkness has become so familiar to me that it's almost like a toxic friend. And that's why I got this shirt, because it's almost like you can't walk in darkness for that many years and be attacked that severely and that often, and not think of darkness as almost like not a part of you, but a massive part of your journey. And to be honest with you, as much as I'm here to help remove it, and you can't there's another thing with darkness, you can't like just disintegrate it or make it go away. They're beings, you can only command them, and that's what I learned with Tracy as well. They can only be commanded, and you reform your sovereignty, and then they can't touch you. That's how they can't touch you, and that's a massive teaching of Tracy's. And there's not just a little spray or a sage or something that you say as in, I am sovereign and rah. If it's not healing exactly where they get in, and also what type they are, identifying the type and how it's affected you basically. But yeah, to me, darkness is almost like that old friend that you have that you don't really want to have, but you know that they're in your life, and you just deal with it. That's what it's like. So it is going to be something that I work with often once I get my business up and running, to help you, whoever needs it. But yeah, it's kind of that thing of, you have to know it well, you have to walk through it to know it and to understand it, and to remember what darkness is and what we are truly in, which is spiritual warfare. So this time I'm going. Take care. Hopefully this landed somewhere that you can think, wow, that actually resonates with me, and now I'm starting to understand how important I am. Okay, take care guys. Bye.